Okay, welcome everyone. I'm Kayce Stevens Hughlett, and I am here today with the lovely Christine Valters Paintner. Say hello, Christine.
Hello. So glad to be here with
Yeah,
you.
so it's really great to be here today. Christine is Abbey of the Arts, the abbess of an online community of dancing monks. But most importantly, Christine is also my friend and colleague. I was thinking this morning, Christine, we have known each other almost 10 years now.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, we
That's
met
very
in
cool.
2006.
Yeah, that's right.
And I went on my first pilgrimage. Christine was participating at the time. We went to Ireland. And so
Hmm.
now, as most of you know who know Christine, you know she now lives in Ireland.
Hmm.
So that was very fun. Christine and I have also gone to Vienna together,
Hmm.
and she helped launch my love to go on and lead groups to Paris. So
Woohoo.
woo, it's really great. So much fun in terms of everything we could talk about. But today we're here to talk about Christine's latest book, which,
Woohoo.
oh, there we go. There's my kid. So Full of a Pilgrim. And so, Christine, what number book is this for you?
Um, it's technically number 8.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And I remember back when you wrote number 1, I think.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so it's been fun to be with you along the way. Um, I thought of lots of things, and of course, I'm a big fan of your work. So what I decided to do today, rather than coming up with my own questions, because I feel like I know all the answers, right? So is I actually went to the group of the Dancing Monks, the
Hmm.
online group that's on Facebook, and Christine and her husband John coordinate this group, and it's really a lovely community. And so I actually asked the community. I said I was going to be
Hmm.
interviewing you, and you have a really smart bunch of people following you.
Oh, dear.
So,
That's great.
so, but I was reading through the questions, and it led me to your dedication,
Aw.
which is actually to your husband, John.
Hmm.
And you guys just celebrated 20 years of marriage.
Yeah, last fall. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
were there for the ritual.
I know. It was so amazing, so
Mhm.
beautiful. And
Mhm.
so we monks, and I have this question too, because I am married,
Mhm.
and as monks, as pilgrims, as travelers in the world, um, we don't always align with our partners.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'm going to I love this. It says clearly in marriage, there is a mutuality, but also a singleness as well.
That's a beautiful way to put it,
It's
yeah.
really a beautiful way to put it. I thought this was so lovely. So they were curious about the interplay
Mhm.
between your unique pilgrimage and
Mhm.
John's.
Mm.
And so I know we're not going to speak for John today,
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
but this idea of how you guys navigate when you get these wild calls, like to move to Ireland, or
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question, and I feel like it could be a really, really long answer, so I'll try and see what comes kind of to the surface at first. When when we went on this crazy adventure, it's funny because we tell the story in February 2012. John was ready to kind of take a break from teaching, but he hadn't quite made the leap to step away from a full-time job with benefits. And he came home from work one day in February, and he said that the entire curriculum that he was teaching was going to be changing that fall. And I knew, like in that moment, I knew like this was a door that was opening for us in a new way. We had already talked about going overseas, maybe on a sabbatical, and it took him a couple of weeks. And I actually really respect how quickly he agreed with me that this would be a fabulous idea. I thought it would take a little longer, but really, I mean, like marriage, as you know, is like such a pilgrimage, and it's I love that idea of mutuality and singleness. And I think in some ways we've just been very fortunate that a lot of our dreams have been in alignment together. And part of that is we both have a real openness to adventure and a real longing to take some risks. And I think doing that together certainly does make it a little bit easier in some ways. I mean, I know if your partner isn't of that mind, then it could be certainly more challenging. Mm-hmm. But certainly having someone to go through all of the things that we've gone through on this adventure has been a great support. I'm also really conscious of how much having our own path and our own practices and our own even just our own kind of circle of friends is really important for us to keep our kind of distinct identities. But I feel like there's probably a whole book actually in the future.
Yeah, maybe the next one. Well, I know it's not the next one because you already have another one or two in the works,
but this idea of contemplative partnership is something that I've been kind of bubbling with. So I don't actually have a really great answer for you to that question, but more like the seeds of thought that have been kind of bubbling in me. Like how do you navigate that with somebody else in partnership? And how do you make the time and the space to kind of stay connected in that really contemplative way?
Right.
To one another. So.
Yeah. No, wonderful. And I know that it is, I think, planting those seeds. And when you said that John responded so quickly, I thought, my hunch is those seeds had been planted for quite a while. And so I've been thinking a lot about that lately of these, how we plant seeds and how we tend back and cut some things back and then they grow and
then you look back and you're like, oh, it's kind of funny. I posted on Facebook yesterday, or a couple of days ago, the photo that when we left New York, we took the cruise liner across the Atlantic. And so it's this photo of looking back at the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. And I posted it just because I had remembered that it had been 3 years since we left on this pilgrimage. But there was something kind of moving to me actually about like, oh, there is this looking back that can be really rich, kind of a rich part of the pilgrimage. Like we think of pilgrimage as like looking ahead a lot, or at least I do. But there is something about reflecting back on what these 3 years have brought us and how incredibly like satisfying that is to kind of look back on all of that.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been 3 years.
So, I know.
Yeah. Well, so another question, people, of course, I'm finding as an author that people really kind of want to know behind the scenes. They want to peek into that. They're interested in your book, they're interested in your work, but they're also interested, I think, in your daily life. And you offer this really daily practice. And in the book, there's these 8 steps of pilgrimage, which I find that daily life is a pilgrimage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
How we step through that. But so one of the questions, let me take a look here. Was this idea of how you bring pilgrimage into your home. This idea of, I know I have a little altar space that has little pieces around me from places I've been. And so I think people are kind of curious about, where does the abbess live besides this island of Ireland?
Yeah. Well, I think that idea of having an altar space is really an important kind of visual, sensual reminder of the journey that we're on, and the little talisman or symbols that kind of call to us along the way. I mean, John and I live in an apartment in the heart of Galway City, and we have we're really blessed with a lovely view of the bay, and it is very conducive to reflection and contemplation, I do have to say. But it's funny because I think for me, it's funny, if a good friend of mine the other day said she thinks of me as really disciplined, and I don't necessarily see myself that way. I think for me, it's kind of a marriage between, again, sort of this kind of dance between the discipline it takes for me to kind of show up each day and sort of cultivate contemplative awareness. And that can, for me, happens a lot of ways: through journaling, through walking and just kind of paying attention to the world around me, through yoga and movement practice. John and I have a kind of on and off again Lectio Divina practice we do together, which is, sacred reading of the texts. And so for me, it's really important to have all of these tools to cultivate a habit of listening deeply. And some of those take some discipline and practice to integrate and to kind of show up regularly. But then I would say a lot of my rhythm is, I actually really love unstructured time, and I kind of thrive with days when we're not leading groups and so forth. I really thrive in days when I can kind of follow my own rhythm and sort of listen in. But I think that's the outgrowth of the discipline of the practice, is them being able to listen in the rest of my time. What does my body need right now? I know you're very big on the self-care and listening to what do I need in this moment, and what is the invitation, what is the calling right now. And also, like in pilgrimage and daily life, it's not all about necessarily about like feeling good, because sometimes there are things that come into our lives that are really disruptive and are really uncomfortable. And for me, pilgrimage is a lot about welcoming in those moments as well, but finding a way to kind of listen, to stay grounded and connected, and to see them as part of the thread of this whole journey that we're on. So.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea of really and listening to those places where it's hard today, or it's, things aren't exactly as I want them to be. And I think you have a chapter in here about returning. And I often think of Phil Cousineau, who, wrote The Art of Pilgrimage, and is a book, and talks about this bringing back the boon and this idea of returning home. And so I guess one question I would have for people that either are just not able to go and have a grand adventure, and so they feel like they might be missing something, or, and I think it's the same for people that sometimes they come back home and all of a sudden they're home, and how do you maintain this spirit of pilgrimage? Because I think a lot of times when we're away, we only remember the high points, and we forget like that there were some really hard, deep points.
Yeah, exactly.
And so balancing that when we get back home and bringing it into our daily life, whether we've been away or not.
Well, I think for me, it's the heart of it is this idea. One of the chapters is on beginning again, and this idea of like recognizing that our entire life is a journey. So even if we go on a pilgrimage and we come back, there's still this journey of integration. There's still a journey of deepening, and so it's not like we figure it all out and then come back and it's I know. And so I think for me, I mean, the tension between being an exile and being at home in the world has been, I think, what's drawn me most deeply into this idea of pilgrimage. And the root of the word pilgrim means stranger, to be a stranger. And I think that's, for me, what has really enriched, I think has kept me really going on some of the harder times of pilgrimage, moments when we've been living in a strange culture. And there have been times when I really have felt like I'm the stranger, whether it was when we were living in Vienna. I certainly felt that a lot. But even in Ireland, where like, even though our language is the same, there's a lot of cultures and customs that are different, and sort of learning how to navigate that. And I guess to remember that that strangeness kind of breaks me open and helps me let go of a lot of the assumptions that I bring to daily life. Like there's so many moments that I'm like, oh, this really should be this way. Like we do this better back home, wherever back home is anymore.
Mhm.
But I think that too in our daily life, when we are back home, there's all these moments to recognize the strangeness. Like it's not just going to another culture, although going to another culture will certainly, I think, break that open in a more maybe a live way or a way that we're more paying attention to.
Right. Right.
But then in our daily lives, we have all these moments when we kind of bump up against the edges or what other people's expectations are and our own. And I think that's all part of the pilgrimage too. And so the more that we can find a little ease there, I think the more we can start to find that journey back home again, which is that for me is the sense of like, can I feel at home in the world no matter where I am
Right.
and no matter what I'm encountering? And that's definitely a fluid, fleeting thing as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, thank you. I think about that a lot. And, as you know, I had one of my longest trips this year. I was gone for 6 weeks. And I've been home for probably about that long now, and I'm still integrating and figuring out what that is, and so that assurance that we don't necessarily arrive,
right,
and we arrive at moments in time. Would you say? And
I think that's a really good way to put it. I think there are definitely moments when we taste home and we feel that ease and we feel that at homeness, and to know that it's perfectly normal and even welcome, to welcome in the strangeness that continues to arise. Yeah.
So I know, Christine, that you and I could just talk about this for days and years, as we have.
We don't get to.
We do, but just not on video. So
that sounds good.
We want to. I think about this idea of, we always think that more is more.
Yeah.
And so I really intentionally wanted to keep this interview a bit brief today. And but we might just have to do it again, right?
Yeah, I think so, now that we've learned this technology.
Exactly. So tell us, I love, just as we end, if you have a favorite thing or a favorite quote out of the book, and then let everybody know where they can get your Soul of the Pilgrim.
Well, there's actually a little poem in the last chapter. Now, of course, I don't. May have to find it, but it's from an Indian poet, Tagore. Oh, here it is, and it says, "Now it is time to sit quiet, alone with you, and to sing a rededication of my life in this silent and overflowing joy." And I was just reminded of that the other day, this idea of singing a rededication of my life. And so that's been kind of shimmering for me a lot.
That's really lovely. I love that.
Thank you. So this is available in Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and even better, like to go to your independent bookstore and ask them to order it or stock it and all of that. So
and I don't know if everybody can see.
My
furry friend has arrived.
He's definitely letting you know that it's time to move on to other priorities.
Yes. So Christine, it's so lovely to have a conversation with you. People can find you at Abbey of the Arts online, and you has all your information there. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm at liveittogiveit.me, or Kayce, KayceHughlett.com. And so Christine, thanks so much. And we'll see how this all turns out. Good luck with your sales.
Thanks, Kayce.
Okay.